going almost to the center of the park, the most famous, well-known camp in Etosha, and the first camp and the biggest camp of Etosha is Okaukuejo Resort. So you access it from the Anderson Gate, and then it's 17 kilometers from Anderson Gate to Okaukuejo Resort. Now, in the resort itself, you've got a whole myriad of accommodations, and it's been developed over the years, so there is all different types. You can do camping with your own equipment. There is, basic rooms. They're actually quite nice rooms. There's rooms. Then there's chalets. Then there's bush chalets. Then there's premier chalets. No, there's waterhole chalets. Then there's premier waterhole chalets. I think I've covered all the different types of accommodation there. Before I go into the accommodation, let me tell you about what's made Okaukuejo particularly famous. And that is, as I mentioned earlier, the lit waterhole that the camp is built around. It's on the southern side of the camp. There's a waterhole that is one of the first waterholes that the animals encounter after walking around a particularly dry patch and barren patch of the Etosha National Etosha PAM. So the animals always come in there to drink. If you spend any time of day or night 2 hours sitting there in the camp, because there's benches and a wall, then the safety fences, then there's the waterhole in front of you, and you can see quite a way because again it's flat. If you spend 2 hours any time of day or night there, you will see animals, lots of animals. You will most likely see elephant during the late afternoon, evening to about 2 hours after sunset. Is probably the best time to go if you want to see a combination of elephant and rhino. It's a good area for both black and white rhino, so they're regularly seen there and they live in that area. But you will also see lots of other animals. I sat one morning at there for 2 hours and I noted all the animals as they came and go. Zebra, springbok, eland, wildebeest, impala. Actually, was lucky enough to get lions on that occasion. That's not that common. Giraffe, forget all the animals. I noted them down. As I went in a 2 hour period, I saw over 2,000 animals coming and going from, not all at once, but coming and going at that waterhole in a 2 hour period, mid-morning. I'd gone out for a game drive, came back, had a late breakfast. So it was about from 9:30 to 11:30 when it was getting hot. It's great for photographers. You can take your tripod and a nice lens, set it up inside the camp while you sit and walk around and take photographs onto the waterhole as well. So that is what, and it's lit at night. So 24/7, you can stand inside the camp and watch the animals come and go. And there is always animals coming and going at that waterhole, and birds as well. It's really beautiful. It's also a nice place for sunset, because there's not that many good places where you can game drive to in Etosha to watch the sunset and get back to your camp in time. But at Okaukuejo Waterhole, if you're positioned, because it's on the south of the camp, you can actually go round as you're facing the waterhole. If you head towards the left, you can get the sun setting right in front of you. And often you can get animals, especially giraffe or elephant, coming right out of the sun into the waterhole or reflecting on the waterhole. Very beautiful. So that's what's made Okaukuejo famous, because it was the first camp that a lot of people heard about, and it does have a particularly beautiful, well-lit waterhole that's very easily accessible from the camp, because all the accommodation in the camp that we're now going to go through is quite close to the waterhole. So from the waterhole, there's about 20 meters, and then you've got the first row of chalets. Now, these are called the Premier Waterhole Chalets. They sleep 4 people. They're on 2 floors, which is the only 2-floor accommodation, as far as I know, in the whole of Etosha National Park. Downstairs, there's a little kitchenette area. When I say kitchenette, it's a fridge and a kettle, not a cooking kitchen. There's a downstairs bedroom and bathroom. Then you go upstairs, and there's like an open plan bedroom and bathroom upstairs with a balcony that looks onto this waterhole. So you can actually sit upstairs in your chalet and watch the waterhole 24/7. I did actually go and stay there for one night because, you know, I've got to do this. I've got to experience it so I can tell you about it. I love staying there. And I actually set up the camera and took a night lapse of the waterhole because I couldn't stay awake all night. I wanted to because there's always something happening, but I took a time lapse. When I looked at the time lapse in the morning, I kept it running all through the night. There had been 27 rhino visit the waterhole and a lot of other animals during the night. So yes, you've got the Premier Waterhole chalets. Now the advantage of them, their location is they're right on the waterhole. You can actually see the waterhole from your chalet inside the camp. And if you get out, open the front door, you walk 3 minutes and you're right at the wall looking out on the thing. Two disadvantages of the Premier Waterhole chalets that you must be prepared for. One, how much they cost. They are the most expensive accommodation inside Okaukuejo. The location, and they are very nice. There is also a minimum occupancy as well, so you can go and stay there as one person, but you'll pay, I believe, for 2 people, because minimum occupancy 2. So just take a friend with you. The other disadvantage with those waterholes, with the Premier Waterhole chalets, is all through the day and the night there's going to be people walking past to and from the waterhole, because everybody from the camp can access the waterhole. It's not yours, unfortunately. And some tourists are more considerate than others. Some people like to sit there all night, they take a few drinks. Generally it's quiet around the waterhole because you're meant to be silent around the waterhole, but as people walk away from the waterhole, that's when they tend to talk a little bit, and of course that's just when they're walking past your chalet, heading back to wherever they're staying. So bear that in mind. I wouldn't say it was noisy by any stretch, but you are going to have people walking to and from your chalets. So pros and cons there. Behind the Premier Waterhole chalet is another horseshoe of chalets, and they're called the Waterhole chalets. Now the Waterhole chalets are single rendezvous type chalets. One chalet is 2 rooms. They're not connected. So there's 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, an entranceway, and a little area outside that you can sit. They are less expensive than the Premier Waterhole chalets. They're still very close to the waterhole. I would say they're about between which chalet 5 to 6 minute walk from the chalet to the actual waterhole. You cannot see the waterhole from the waterhole chalets. Very deceptive name. The Premier Waterhole chalets are the only chalets in Okaukuejo that actually have a view onto the waterhole. The Premier Waterhole, the Waterhole chalets are behind them, and although you can look between them, you can't see the waterhole from the Waterhole chalets. It's just their location is around the waterhole. So they are obviously cheaper, they're still very close. The other thing to note with both the Premier Waterhole and the Waterhole chalet is, because it's right on the waterhole, there's no parking beside the accommodation. There's a communal parking area to one side, just away from the waterhole, and then you have to walk there past the Waterhole chalets to the Premier chalets and then to the waterhole. So that's another thing to bear. It's not a long walk, but your car is not going to be right beside the chalet to unload and load all the stuff. This is one of the reasons I also recommend for people not to spend 1 night in each camp. Go to Etosha, or we'll come back to that later. Anyway, Premier Waterhole chalets, then the Waterhole chalets. Then you have the bush chalets. Now these are in 2 sections a little bit further away. There's actually a road after the Waterhole chalets, the road that goes through the camp. The bush chalets are in a row behind that, and there's different clusters of them. They're slightly cheaper than the Waterhole chalets, and the advantage the bush chalets have is they're the only accommodated place which have their own braai pit or barbecue area. The Premier Waterhole and the Waterhole chalets, there is no facility for cooking yourself there. You've got the chalet and the room and the bathroom and everything, but there's nowhere for you to braai. And of course you're right by the waterhole, so it'd be rude to do that anyway. So the bush chalets are the only accommodation in this section which has their own braai area outside. The chalets themselves, they've got the room, ensuite bathroom. Oh, that's what I forgot to mention. Premier, Waterhole and bush chalets and the rooms are all air conditioned. And it's 24/7 electricity. It runs on a mains electricity Okaukuejo. So they all have air conditioning. So it's air conditioned as well in the bush chalets, their own bathroom. You can park right beside the chalet. So you park right up, unload, you're right in. You don't have to walk between the two. And distance from the waterhole, I would say 7 to 9 minutes, depending on which chalet you're at. And then you walk across the road, past the Waterhole chalets, past the Premier Waterhole chalets, and you're at the waterhole. In general, my pick for Okaukuejo is the bush chalets because they're not as expensive as the Waterhole chalets, and they're in a good location because they're just away from the waterhole enough so you don't get bothered by the noise. They're right pretty much in the center of the camp, so you can walk to the waterhole really quickly. You can actually walk to the restaurant, the swimming pool, the bar, the shop also quite quickly, and you can park your vehicle quite close. So they're quite a nice option, but it does make them very busy. Especially in peak season, it's quite difficult to get one for more than one night, sometimes not possible at all. The next one along is actually the rooms. Now, they're the furthest away from the waterhole, even further away from the campsite, which we'll come to shortly. But the rooms are nice. There's two types of room, they call them A and B, and basically just the size when they were built. They used to be the ranger rooms, because Okaukuejo started as a ranger outpost. But they've obviously been modernised. Again, they've got aircon, they've got a little fridge, they've got their own bathroom, bed, mosquito nets, plugs, everything you can need, and they're in 2 rows. They're quite small. There's not enough room to, sit in them, but there is an area where you can sit outside. Parking is at the end of the row, so you've got 2 rows of rooms, and you park either end, so you don't park you park there. And I would say they're about a 12 to 14 minute walk to the waterhole from the rooms, depending which end you are. Very comfortable, the cheapest accommodated option in Okaukuejo. Really good value. The last type of accommodation at Okaukuejo is the camping site. Now, the camping site, oddly enough, has some advantages over the rooms in some ways, because the rooms are sort of grow out from the waterhole in a sort of fan, but down this side you've got the campsite, which wraps round from part of the waterhole behind the waterhole chalets here and goes along the fence in 2 sides. So it's not as far as the rooms to the waterhole. It's about a 10-12 minute walk from the camping site, and it's a big campsite, so from the middle of the camping site, because you can go to the far end if you want somewhere quiet, to the waterhole, so it's not too far. It's also only about 7 to 10 minutes to the restaurant and swimming pool and bar as well. So actually it's got good access to all the facilities there. The other big advantage it has is the 2 fences that are right beside it, because most of the animals that come to and from the waterhole follow the fence line to and from the waterhole. So you can camp right close to the fence. And during the day or the night, the animals are walking just a fence width away from you, right along the fence, and you can often see rhino, elephant, lion walking along the little path, the game path that's the other side of the fence, while you're sat in the campsite, either with your fire set. All the campsites have electricity, a bright area, a tap, and a small light. The camping in Etosha is the cheapest accommodation. It's not the cheapest camping in the area, but it's the cheapest camping in the park. So I also love camping, because the other thing you get with camping, whether you're on a roof tent or a ground tent, is the night noises, the hyenas, the jackals, the zebras, the lions calling in the night. So that's the camping site. So that's all the accommodation options you've got for staying at Okaukuejo. So there is a broad spectrum, obviously depending on your style and your budget. Other facilities at Okaukuejo that I've sort of mentioned, there is a restaurant serving breakfast, dinner and evening meal. For the evening meal, it does service all the rooms, so you're supposed to go earlier in the day and reserve a time and a table for your evening meal. Having said that, if you turn up and you haven't done that, they'll squeeze you in somewhere, but it may not be in quite such a nice table. But it's nice, and it spills, there's an inside area and it spills outside into a larpa. It's a very nice area, but the dining time can get quite busy. Food there is very nice. When it gets busy, they tend to put a buffet on to help yourself. Other times it's a la carte, you select from a limited menu. Then there's a swimming pool and a kiddie swimming pool right by the restaurant. There's a bar area as well. There's grassy areas for sitting in. There is quite a nice well-equipped shop, and there's a souvenir shop. So the shop for food, and so you could buy all your supplies there. Not the best quality, not the cheapest, but you can buy stuff there, and lots of snacks, cold drinks and ice cream. And there's actually a souvenir shop as well, which is really nice. So there's 2 shops there. There's also the reception and information area at the front entrance as well, and there's plenty parking. There's also a viewing tower right in the middle of that entrance area, which you can go up for sunset, or you can just go up during the day with a pair of binos and see what animals you can spot. You can actually see a long way from all different areas. That, I think, covers Okaukuejo. Oh, Wi-Fi. always forget the Wi-Fi. None of the rooms or camping site have Wi-Fi. I mean, you can pretty much take that as given for all the places, all inside Etosha. Wi-Fi is free, again, limited and slow in the reception area. It does cover the restaurant and bar as well. That's Okaukuejo. And that's the most centrally located of the camps.